You don't have to leave the city to get a feel of farm life. There's a little bit of country in places you probably wouldn't expect. Just take a look around. You may even find it in your own neighborhood.
Historic Wooster Square, where shady trees line the streets and brownstones punctuate the charm of this New Haven neighborhood. But look closely and you'll find that city life is more like green acres. Check out what's buzzing in this backyard. Andy Ross and Sharon Chikijan are city dwellers turned urban beekeepers.
She suggested first that we raise goats in New Haven, and I said goats are definitely out.
I've had a dream for a while of having a farm, and since we live in New Haven, that was a difficult proposition.
There was something about all those buzzing bees, and I thought it would be kind of interesting. They don't take up a whole lot of space.
Meeting Ben Gardner with Pollen Urban Farming and Beekeeping at a local farmer's market sealed the deal. Backyard farming, he says, is a growing trend.
They're sort of coming out of the woodwork, and a lot of it tends to be word of mouth.
People who are looking to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
For people like Andy and Sharon, who have maybe a small amount of space, one of the creative ways that they can do that is by having a beehive in their backyard.
I love honey. I love honey. Raw honey. I love raw. I could eat honey by the spoonful all the time.
This beehive started with a queen bee and 10,000 worker bees.
We call it Hive 612 after the house.
Which now stands at more than 20,000.
The queen stays inside, so we never see her. We've only seen her once when she was being put in the hive.
I especially like the landing pad. They sort of land like jets, and with their full load, and then they tumble over, and then they get into the hive and release their pollen, and then do whatever else they do, whatever other magic they do.
Since April, these bees have been focused at their task at hand, fortifying their home.
They spent a lot of time this spring just making their home. They have to take those frames that we see inside the hive. They actually have to make the comb that they store the honey in, store the pollen in, lay the eggs in. Ben
maintains this bee colony on a routine schedule.
We pay Ben to come in and do the heavy lifting. He comes in and does all the, changes the combs and makes sure they have enough water and food and this and that. And we're actually supposed to be learning the whole process so that we could eventually do it ourselves. But I'm not quite sure about that yet.
Until then, it is Ben who protects himself from getting stung, though it comes with the job.
Usually all I need is a veil, which is a hat with netting around the head, and I like to wear gloves just because when the bees are crawling on me, it keeps me a little bit more calm and centered. The veil helps just to kind of keep them off my face, which, you have a bee crawling on your face, no matter how long you've been doing it, it's a little distracting, let's say.
Let me tell you about the bees. Not agitating them while they're collecting nectar and pollen to survive is a sure way of keeping from harm's way.
The bees are actually very, very calm as long as you're calm. And the most important thing to remember is to not panic, not to swat at them, just to treat them with care and to not disturb the hive.
People and bees can coexist even in smaller spaces like an urban space, just as well as anywhere else.
To coexist, puffs of smoke help to calm the honeybees.
It helps calm the bees. Basically, it sort of makes them feel as though there may actually be a fire nearby. And what it does is it makes them go kind of down in between the frames, and they actually start supping up some of the honey in case they have to leave, because there may be a fire. And that sort of calms them. It also kind of engorges their abdomen, so they're a little less able and likely to sting.
Something else you need to know.
They'll fly up to 2 or 3 miles from their hive if they need to collect water, nectar, pollen. But even in a city, you have plenty of decorative flowers in people's backyards, lots of tree blossoms, and even in vacant lots, there's plenty of weeds.
Sharon, an emergency physician, has looked into the history of honey, which dates back to ancient Egypt thousands of years ago.
They used it as an antibiotic ointment and as a wound dressing, and there's actually been several studies recently comparing antibiotics to honey. And it may be a little on the cutting edge of wound treatment at this point, but there are some physicians, especially with the advent of MRSA and resistant organisms, who are going back to what we've known for thousands of years, and that is that honey provides a very effective barrier that promotes wound healing. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties.
All the white part on the top, all this right here is all honey.
It's really flowery. It almost tastes, it tastes like cherry honey, and I know that sounds strange, but we have cherry trees out in Worcester Square Park, and maybe it's in my head, but that's sort of what I'm feeling.
Okay, let's taste it.
It's delicious.
Is that good?
And the bees don't get mad we're eating their honey, Ben?
We try to limit how much we take from them. Like I said, we only take honey that's surplus. So they would be a little bit more upset if we were in the fall and it was, end of the season. They definitely have a sense that it's do or die time.
Depending on the weather, these bees could produce from 40 to 80 pounds of honey come harvest time this fall.
What do you want to do with the honey that this is going to produce?
Become a multi-millionaire honey producer? No. I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to produce as much honey as we can, and Sharon is really great at jarring that stuff, and we'll put some fun local labels on it, and we'll eat it and give it away to our friends and our family and you too.
In total, Ben manages 26 hives in the New Haven area, Teresa.
Oh.
And now that beehive is about 2 square feet. And Ben tells me the queen bee lays somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day. The more the bees, of course, the more the honey. And so far, Andy and Sharon have not yet been stung.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Really?
seriously. They say they're really careful. They try not to disrupt the bees.
I can't believe that is in Worcester Square.
Yeah.
Right across the street.
So
It's such an urban area.
so
You wouldn't
you're-
think there would be beekeeping.
So if you're in the area and you see some bees, they could be coming from Andy's backyard.
I guess so. I wonder what his neighbors think.
I don't know. I didn't ask.
All right, Jocelyn, thank you. Coming up next, it's a refreshing addition to any meal. Chef Deborah Queen shares a recipe for watermelon gazpacho. That's when Connecticut Style returns.